LeBron's not the greatest player ever because he didn't go 6 for 6 and won 6 chips. He's just not as good as Michael Jordan.
Going straight to the top. Just put the stack on the clock. I am Ray Allen's a shot. I'm going straight to the top.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Mike here, Sports and the Real Podcast, coming at you once again. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe and share and tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend. Also, don't forget to check out the website, sportsandthereal.tv, sportsandthereal.tv. I always appreciate you guys spending a few minutes with me, checking me out, even if it's a few seconds. It means a lot. It really does. I know I say it every time, but it's true. It means a lot. It's a lot of distractions out there, a lot of other people you can be watching. So just to give me a few seconds, a few minutes of your time listening and watching, I appreciate it. NBA offseason's here, so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Things are heating up, or they did heat up in the NBA. So we'll start there. We'll talk about a couple other things. So NBA offseason. Probably the biggest news, right, aside from KD getting traded. I talked about that last episode. Aside from KD getting traded, I got some more to say about that, is really the Lakers about to get sold or in the process of getting sold to billionaire investor Mark Walter. Now, this dude is rich. All right. He's worth like $6 billion, 6 with a B. Makes him one of the richest owners in the NBA. And he's gonna, him and his group or whatever are gonna buy the Lakers for $10 billion. The buses are gonna stay on. Supposedly, they're still gonna be what are they called? Not owners. What are they? Partners? Whatever they're called, right? General manager. I think that's what they're called. Managers. So the buses are going to stay on at least for a little while to oversee things, I guess. I don't know what the equipment is. So a couple of things to say about that. First of all, I've said this before. I feel like Adam Silver and the NBA think we're idiots. Like, it's not like this sale came out of nowhere for the Lakers. So, in my conspiracy theory mind, here's what happened. The Lakers are about to get sold. LeBron, and I'll touch on this in a little bit, LeBron is about to retire. Mark Walter's like, look, I can buy the Lakers for all this money, but I need an asset. I need a big-time player. I'm not just gonna buy the Lakers for $10 billion, and then the biggest selling point, the biggest draw of the Lakers bounces in a year. LeBron leaves. So Mark Walter makes a deal with Adam Silver and says, hey, look, man, I'm going to buy this, buy the Lakers. The buses, can't do this no more, whatever, right? The buses, for those who don't know, the buses, the Lakers were their money, right? It was their cash cow. They didn't have, like some of these other billionaires. They have other businesses, and basketball is just like a toy to them. The Lakers were the bus family business, right? Since Jerry. So anyway, Mark Walter is probably like, hey, yo, Adam, I'll buy the Lakers. I'll hook them up. Jeannie and them can stay on for a little bit. I'll buy the Lakers for 10B. But Bron's about to retire. Bron's about to leave. I need a big-time player to come through. Make it happen. Adam Silver's like, cool. Let me hit up my boy Mark Cuban, the Dallas Mavericks, blah, blah, blah. Work a deal out, blah, blah, blah. Bang, boom. Before you know it, Luka is on the Lakers. So this Mark Walter thing didn't come out of nowhere, y'all. Don't y'all fall for that, man. He was about to buy the Lakers, but LeBron's about to leave in a year. So he's like, okay, cool, bet. Let me get Luka. Luka comes on board. And then now the Dallas Mavericks just so happen to get the first overall pick right back to him. This stuff is so shady, man. I told y'all last episode about how FIFA is so crooked. I got to watch this stuff on Netflix, how just the craziness that goes on within FIFA, how countries are awarded World Cups and all this shady business and money movement and all these things. And apparently the NBA ain't that far behind from FIFA, dog, in terms of ridiculousness. And this stuff is out in the open. You can't tell me that the Lakers would just so happen to get sold right after, Luka comes on for pretty much a broken down AD. You can't tell me that, bro. So Luka was pretty much the chip that Mark Walters said, okay, I'll buy the Lakers if you guys get Luka on the Lakers because I know LeBron's going to leave and LeBron's a draw, right? And that's one of the reasons why, the Lakers could never really get rid of LeBron because he was the draw. And the Bucks needing that money were never going to get rid of LeBron. No matter how old he got, he would have played till he was 50 years old. So, yeah, call me a conspiracy theorist. Call me whatever you want, bro. LeBron's going to leave. Mark Walters like, look, I can infuse some cash, upgrade whatever needs to be upgraded. I got the skills to pay the bills, bro. So get me somebody on the phone. Get me Luka, international superstar, face of the NBA type of cat. Yeah, he comes to the Lakers. Bron can retire if he wants to. Lakers are still going to be a draw because Luka's there. Now this cat comes in, he buys them, and then the first overall pick magically goes to the Mavericks. This stuff couldn't get any more obvious. People think we're stupid, we're dumb. So that's the biggest news of the offseason, despite all these trades and free agency movement. The Lakers getting sold, that to me tells me all I needed to know about the inner workings of the NBA. It's some shady business going on. Of course, LeBron, right? LeBron signs his deal, re-signs, player option, for next year. After that, he's done. Does he retire? Who knows? So now the question is, Mark Walters rich. The Bucks are rich. Mark Walter is wealthy, all right? Does he have the patience to suffer through a couple losing seasons while the Lakers rebuild? LeBron goes, they rebuild, retool for a couple of seasons. He still has money. He's not dependent on LeBron and the Lakers for revenue like the Bucks are. So can he afford to wait out a couple of seasons because he has money stashed up elsewhere while the Lakers actually build a team that can contend and not this patchwork trying to bring in free agents, like all these things they try to do because the Bucks, they have to keep LeBron in order to keep the people coming to the games. He's the draw. He's the main attraction. They just signed DeAndre Ayton, who's going to bring absolutely nothing to them. I don't think he provides any benefit over what they already got. Maybe a little bit of height. But he doesn't really help them beat the Timberwolves, I don't think. They're not beating OKC. So they're still lower, in the order of things. They're still lower. But can they afford now a couple losing seasons? LeBron's gone after next season. Who knows where he goes? Hopefully he retires. Because like I said a couple episodes ago, LeBron actually looks old now. And the playoffs against the T-Wolves was the first time I was like, damn, LeBron is old. He can't keep up. He got to go. But anyway, LeBron's going to be gone. Can the Lakers now afford to not, do patchwork stuff, actually build a team that's going to contend with the big boys? Because they have to get younger. And they have to get more skilled, better, two-way players. Luka's all nice, but he don't play defense. So how do you build around Luka so that when he inevitably gets blown by, there's help there to help defend and not allow layups and open threes? But also, he's out of shape and he's prone to injury. This man's knee is always bleeding. You got to account for all that as you build around Luka, Lakers. So that's the big news, all right? Lakers are about to get sold. We'll see what happens. But I'm predicting LeBron is done after the season. He picks up his contract. Cool. After next season, he's done. And the Lakers make moves to actually start building a real team now that the owner is not dependent on the Lakers specifically for major revenue. So that's that. Point two is as I get into some of the other big moves, the NBA, from my point of view, the NBA is turning into the NFL in the sense that in the NFL, it's like you pay the franchise quarterback and then you try to figure out with everybody else. Although I don't really agree with that. Like some teams have paid quarterbacks instead of running backs. New York Giants. Instead of paying Saquon, they want to pay Daniel Jones and waste money on Daniel Jones. So the NBA is becoming like the NFL, where teams are basically going to say, hey, man, are you a franchise quarterback type of cat? Are you a franchise player type of cat that we can pay a lot of money to? Because now that there's a hard salary cap, we can't pay 4 or 5 dudes. We pay 1 or 2 guys, important guys, and then everybody else is expendable. So that's why all these moves are happening in the NBA now, and they're going to continue to happen every offseason. Only benefit to the NBA players is their contracts are guaranteed, unlike NFL players who they can get cut at any time and be left with almost nothing. At least NBA players still get guaranteed contracts. But the player movement and all that stuff is really going to look like the way the NFL looks to me, in that you're going to pay your mega stars, right? The guys who you think can carry. So the Celtics are going to pay Tatum. They're going to pay Jaylen Brown. But everybody else is like, I don't know. We could afford Kristaps Porzingis a couple years ago under the old agreement. We could afford Drew Holiday and stack the team. Like, we could afford all these guys. We don't know if we can stack the chips and get all these guys all on the contract again. And it's sad for the Celtics that they only got 1 ring out of it. But all the NBA teams are going to be doing the same thing. We're going to pay 1 or 2 guys, our franchise guy. Maybe, in NFL terms, right, we're going to pay the quarterback and the DN, right, defensive end, or the quarterback and the lockdown corner is going to get all the money. Everybody else is going to have to, short contracts, smaller contracts, extend it out, like all that stuff. Trades, free agency, that's how the NBA is going to look. If you're not a franchise guy, a true franchise guy in the NBA, like, teams are going to have to get players, trade them, move them around, because only the franchise guy, the franchise quarterbacks, as unfair as it is in the NFL, the franchise quarterback, even though the quarterback may not be that good, but because of the importance of the position, the quarterback gets paid a whole lot of money disproportionately. It's going to kind of feel the same way, where the NBA team is going to be like, damn, this is the best guy on the team. We think he can take us to the finals. We think he can take us to the finals. We're going to only a few guys are going to be able to be trusted with a ton of money because they can't afford everybody else, because the cap is going to stop them. There's some good to that. There's some not so good to that. I think the NBA fans were used to like dynasties and stacked teams. Like, we learned to hate dynasties and we learned to hate stacked teams, right? Like, that's part of the draw of the NBA is, teams that are like, damn, how'd you get all these players? So now everybody's rooting against them, like the villains. But I think that's what it's going to be, right? Either you're a franchise QB, franchise wing player, franchise PG, whatever it is, or you're done. Either you're Steph Curry or you're not. If you're Steph, you're going to get a contract and you'll stay there forever, guaranteed contracts. They'll just switch the pieces around you, right? For example, a team like Golden State will be switching pieces around Steph as the cornerstone of a franchise, right? If you're Jason Tatum, Luka, right, teams are going to build around you, but they won't be able to bring in 3-4 other mega stars to form. The super team era is done. It's over. So you ain't going to have the Heatles no more, where you'll be like 3 max players, right? You ain't getting that no more. That's probably a good thing. I guess that's one of the good things, is you're not going to get those kind of teams where it's like unfair, right? The Warriors were unfair. Like, we knew they were champions before the season started. So now there's parity for those who like parity. So that's that. The KD trade, I wanted to touch back on that again, because in thinking about it, I've made this point a couple of times and I wanted to reiterate it. As you guys know, this is a historic 7 teams involved in this trade. Houston gets KD and Capella, and I think it's a good move for Houston, although I didn't want them to give up Dylan Brooks, but they had to do what they got to get KD to get more scoring. They needed more scoring. They got really good defense. They had to get rid of Jalen Green. Again, Jalen Green, right, is you look like a franchise quarterback, but you don't produce like a franchise quarterback, so you got to go. Jalen Green is a prime example of the new NBA, I think. You're really good. We drafted you. We thought you would be a franchise quarterback. You haven't turned into a franchise quarterback. You're not a franchise backbone cornerstone type of player. So we're going to trade you an upgrade for who we think will be, at least in the short term, can help us win a championship. That's what KD is. So the Suns are betting that KD will stabilize their offense more, still plays pretty good defense, even though he's not peak KD, but he's good enough with the surrounding pieces to help bring them to be a true contender and potentially take them to the championship level. We'll see how it plays out in the regular season. I don't want to make any predictions yet. I think they'll be pretty good. I don't know if they'll be, championship level good, but they'll be really, really good because Udoka's a hell of a coach. They defend like hell, and KD still gets buckets. So we'll see how that plays out. So I like the trade for Houston. For the Suns, I don't get the KD trade for the Suns. And I know their hands are kind of tied behind their backs because Bradley Beal has a no-trade clause, so he's like, I ain't going nowhere. I don't want to go. But it's tough for the Suns, man, because I said this before. Their roster was poorly constructed because they had three guys who did the same thing. They had KD, they had Book, they had Beal, who pretty much all were the same player, just lesser versions of the same player. Like KD was a better version of Booker, and Booker was a better version of Beal. But what they've done, despite all the draft picks they got from Houston, great, future's looking great and all that. But for the short term, Dillon Brooks is going to help them defensively, right? But for the short term, I'm not sure how much better they got. They got worse because instead of it being KD being a better version of Booker and Booker being a version of Beal, the Suns are actually like Booker is a better version of Bradley Beal, who's a better version of Jalen Green. And that's not good. That's a step down. That's a step down, all right? So you went from KD, Book, Beal, really good offensive trio, never figured it out because, again, they play the same style, right? To Booker, not much of a leader, Beal, not much of a winner in his career, and Jalen Green, who doesn't play winning basketball. I don't know how you coach that trio up to start winning, y'all. I really don't. Like, part of coaching is having players who play winning basketball, who know how to win. And unfortunately, outside of the Chris Paul years, Booker didn't do much winning. Bradley Beal hasn't done much winning in his career. And Jalen Green didn't do much winning until Udoka got there, and he just doesn't make winning plays. Three of the same players, just lesser versions of each other. So that's a step down if I've ever seen one. Yeah, the future's going to look right with these draft picks that they hit. Otherwise, I'm not sure what the Suns are doing. I don't know. Probably could have got more for KD, but who knows? All right, let's move on. The Celtics are cleaning house. I talked about this a little bit. Drew is gone. Again, they can't afford everybody now. Drew gone. KP is gone. I mean, damn. Anthony Simons is a good pickup, though. I ain't gonna lie. That's a good trade. Anthony, named after Anthony Hardaway. His pops is from Orlando. Anthony Simons is a bucket getter. That we know that. Like, that kid can hoop. He got bunnies. Like, he's a straight baller. We'll see how he fits in to this new system. He's not much of a defender, I wouldn't say. If you watch these Portland games, it's tough watching Portland. Portland got offensive talent, but they can't stop anybody, really. So Anthony Simons doesn't play much defense, but he's a hell of a scorer. And while Tatum is out, he's going to help him score. He's going to help him get buckets. So they'll still be in it. I don't know if they'll be true contenders, like title contenders, especially if they keep doing the stupid, God, dog it, the stupid 3-0 basketball that they play. But if they can play actual, some semblance of, real basketball, maybe let Anthony Simons run some pick and rolls and get some buckets in the mid-range and not just threes all the time. I mean, he's a hooper, all right? So the Celtics will still be good. They'll be able to score. Their defense is going to suffer tremendously. Anthony Simons ain't no Drew Holiday on defense. So their defense is going to take a hit. No Porzingis is going to take a hit. Obviously, with JT gone for the year, they weren't trying to win a championship anyway, but they're going to take a step back. So we'll see how the Celtics, bounce back and rebuild that team back up. But they need some pieces. At one point, I thought Derek White was going to get traded. I guess it's not too late, but anything can happen. But so far, he's safe. All right, but damn. To get one ring out of that team, Celtics fans probably ain't happy. Let's keep going. Miles Turner is gone. Talk about a traitor. I don't know if it was intentional, but I guess the Pacers that feel like, again, if the team doesn't feel like you're a franchise type of cat, you're expendable. So Miles Turner is gone from the Pacers to the Bucks, and the Bucks had to let Brook Lopez go, and they had to release Dame Dollar. That's tough. The way it ended for Damian Lillard. It just never fit as I thought it would. The fit with Giannis never really worked out. I don't know if it's people going to blame Doc. I don't know what it is, but it just never worked out with Giannis and Damian Lillard. And I had high hopes for it because for the longest time I was like, yo, if you give Dame another star player, he could do some things. But Giannis gets hurt one year, Dame gets hurt. Like, they were never healthy together. And again, if the team doesn't believe you're a franchise cornerstone type of guy, they're going to let you go. And that's what happened with Damian Lillard. It's unfortunate now. He's older. Achilles injury. I know KD came back from his. We'll see how Dame, comes back from his. But that's tough. That's tough. And it's unfortunate. Like I said, I was the one rooting for Dame to get a partner to help him contend, but it just never happened. That's part of the loyalty thing, man. That's the game you play. And I'm a loyal cat. I appreciate loyalty. That's why I appreciate Damian Lillard. I appreciate his loyalty to the Blazers. And a lot of people was like, he should have left earlier. I appreciated that loyalty. Yes, he was getting paid, but he's a loyal cat. And he made the decision to stay throughout his prime, and then he left, and then, So now he's going to go down as one of these cats who was great but never won a chip, but can you blame him? In his prime, he was never really on a team that was a contender. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So people going to put him in the Charles Barkley, never won a chip, Patrick Ewing type of label. I'll get to that in a bit. Ring culture. A huge move that most people probably ain't going to talk about, in my mind, is Bruce Brown going back to the Nuggets. I thought the Nuggets, had they kept Bruce Brown after they won, probably could have gone back again. Because he's like one of the perfect fit type of cats next to the Joker. He doesn't need plays called for him, plays off ball well, defends, hustles all the loose balls. Like, they needed that type of cat. They need more of those type of guys. And him leaving left a big hole. And then the next year, right, things fall apart. But I think that's huge, right? We'll see how the rest of the roster shapes up, right? But I think it's a huge move. He's a stabilizing force, right? They got rid of Michael Porter Jr., right, who, disappointment. But I think the bigger move for the Nuggets is actually bringing in Bruce Brown. That move, to me, says, hey, we're trying to get back to playing defense, guys who want to play hard, guys who are going to hustle, right? Guys who play well off of the Joker, who can cut, like that's the style of basketball the Joker wants to play. That's again, your franchise quarterback, your franchise guy, you build around him. Bruce Brown fits around the Joker. So huge move for the Nuggets. I know Michael Porter Jr. That's the move everybody's going to talk about. He got traded, but I think the move is really the Bruce Brown move for the Nuggets. Big move, bring him back to Denver. So again, a lot of offseason movement. Most of it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. Kind of like in football, right? In the NFL, a lot of offseason moves, but only a couple really move the needle. Only a couple moves. The Miles Turner trade, we'll see how that plays out, because the Bucks don't have a playmaker, right? Like Miles Turner got a lot of offense, a lot of open threes off of Halliburton drives, and how is he going to do that with no creator? Don't tell me Giannis. Giannis is not a creator. There's a difference between a guy who gets assists and a guy who creates offense, who creates for other people, gets other people open. I don't know if the Bucks really have somebody who does that right now. So we'll see how Miles Turner, obviously, right? Miles Turner is going to be shooting threes like Brook Lopez was. That's what he does. But like those open, so they got younger. But those open threes that he got with the Pacers and the way that offense flowed, I don't know how that's going to look on this team, because Giannis is going to be Giannis. He's going to go to the hole. He may or may not kick out. He'll draw fouls, right? He'll do all that. But he's not a creator like that, all right? People confuse assists with somebody who's a true creator. Giannis may get 5, 6 assists, but he ain't a true creator like that. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, a lot of these moves are moves that they seem okay, but they don't really move the needle. I don't know how much Miles Turner moves the needle until they actually get a creator on that team, like a point guard or somebody who can dish it out like that. All right, let's move on. All right, that's it for the offseason. So LeBron caused some ruckus a couple weeks ago, and of course I'm late as usual, but I want to touch on it. Ring culture. And Bron, to paraphrase, dude, and of course when LeBron speaks about stuff like that, people are gonna hate, and there's people who love him gonna stick up for him. I'm neutral. All right. So ring culture has in fact killed sports conversation. Rings and stat culture has killed sports conversation, sports talk. I talked about this 100 times. So I agree with LeBron when he says ring culture kills sports debates, sports conversations. The players now are just chasing rings because they've been led to believe that nothing else they do in their career matters. And somewhere along the line, I don't know when it started, but it got to the point where it feels like, and it makes players feel like if they don't win, then their career was useless. So, of course, LeBron's going to have haters because people think, well, LeBron's only saying that because he knows he's not going to catch Michael Jordan. Listen, man, I am the biggest Michael Jordan fan. Bulls fan. Michael Jordan raised me. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player to ever play. LeBron is, I don't believe LeBron's the greatest player ever, but it's not because he hasn't won 6 rings and didn't go 6 for 6, right? LeBron's not the greatest player ever because he didn't go 6 for 6 and won 6 chips. He's just not as good as Michael Jordan, in my opinion. Like Michael Jordan, to me, put together the greatest career individually and as a leader. Michael Jordan, in the biggest of moments, always came through. And I say always in quotes, like most of the time Michael Jordan came through. You can't find too many instances where Michael Jordan failed or had cold feet in the biggest of moments and high leverage moments. So not only did he put up the individual stats in regular season games, but in the playoffs, he won, but it's not just because he won, because those things are team accomplishments, but in the biggest of moments, he was there. He showed up. Game 6s, he shows up. We remember the game winners, but even without game winners, he showed up. Whereas LeBron had games, we remember the Dallas series and other series where he just didn't show up. So I agree with LeBron. He's not wrong. He's not wrong to say that ring culture is killing sports talk. It's dumbing down the fans, right? It's like you can't have a conversation anymore without somebody saying, hey, rings. How many rings does he have? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you can't make a case for your favorite player being better than another player outside of just rings and stats, then you probably don't know the game you're talking about. Like, stats don't tell the whole story either. Neither do rings. Context to both. People talk about, Reggie Miller, Reggie Miller kept running into Michael Jordan and some of the greatest dudes ever. He ran into Kobe and Shaq. He has an excuse for not winning. But Reggie was great. But Hallie in his, third, fourth year goes to the finals because everybody in the East is hurt this year or whatever it is. Like, there's context to that. How did Hallie get to the finals in his fourth year, whatever he is, and Reggie Miller could barely make it out of the East? Well, because he kept running into the GOAT. That's context. So just because Hallie made it to the finals and Reggie couldn't make it till later on in his career doesn't make Halliburton better. Hallie got to play Jalen Brunson. No shade at Jalen Brunson, but it's different than when you're running into Michael freaking Jordan, all-time cats. It's different. Barkley, Malone, Ewing, like these guys were top of the top cats, but they kept running into Michael Jordan. So just because you can't beat this guy doesn't mean you weren't great. Those guys' careers were great, and they were tremendous without a ring. So you can't tell me somebody who did win a ring, had an easier path to a ring is all of a sudden better just because they got a ring and this other cat doesn't. Kevin Durant didn't get a ring until he went to Golden State, and people call those Mickey Mouse rings. They don't even count those rings as rings for Kevin Durant because he wasn't the buzz driver. Kevin Durant kept running into dynasties. The Spurs, like great teams. And Golden State should have won that series probably, but different conversation. But he ran into teams that were like legit teams, bro. And he beat Spurs. He beat the Spurs. Dynasties. And Lakers. So you can't tell me Kevin Durant's not one of the greatest all time because he didn't win a championship with OKC like Shea does. Like, are we going to put Shea above Kevin Durant all time because Shea has a championship ring with OKC and he didn't have to team hop and ride on coattails? Is that what we're doing now? No. KD is one of the greatest basketball players ever. And anyone who's going to sit there and try to tell you that Shea is better than KD all time has lost their damn mind. Leave the conversation, bro. It's not worth it. So LeBron is right. People get caught up in this rings and they fail to look at people's career performance and the context around their performances. There's no shame in LeBron losing to the Golden State Warriors and getting swept. That team was stacked, a dynasty. Not sure anybody beats that team. With that Cavs team, not sure anybody beats that team. Now, LeBron may have ulterior motives. I don't know. I can't speak to his motives, but I know in this instance, he is right. People say Tom Brady is the GOAT because he has 8 rings. No. Not really. Because Tom Brady won 2 rings before he could throw a forward pass, if we're being honest. Tom Brady was a champion before he really contributed much as a quarterback, like the way he ended his career, leading teams, throwing 50 touchdowns. First couple of rings, Tom Brady wasn't doing nothing. But people were already ready to put him in the Hall of Fame after a couple of rings. He had a stacked squad around him versus somebody like Dan Marino, who people discount Dan Marino as if he wasn't one of the greatest QBs ever, the best QB of his generation, but he just didn't play on good enough teams. And people want to say, well, he didn't elevate his team. You could only elevate so much. The term elevate is so overused and is used out of context a lot of times. There's only so much you can elevate. All right? If a team is good, you take them to the next level. If they're not that good, which Dan Marino played on our team where defensively they weren't that good and playing with no running game. And he had to go up against Jim Kelly and the Buffalo Bills every year, who were stacked with 4 Hall of Famers. Again, Dan Marino is my favorite quarterback ever. Dolphins are my team, and I'm making excuses for them, whatever. But it holds true across the board. There is context to everything. So just because somebody didn't win a ring doesn't mean they're out of the running for greatest ever. Plenty of guys have rings who just weren't that great, but they have a ring. LeBron is one of the greatest basketball players ever. One of the best. He's not the greatest to me, not because he doesn't have 6 rings, but because when I look at Jordan skill for skill versus LeBron, Michael Jordan comes out on top. And I can have a basketball conversation and say why I think Michael Jordan is greater than LeBron. And maybe others can have a basketball conversation and say why they think LeBron is greater than Jordan without bringing up rings or stats, right? Because what Bron fans are going to do is bring up longevity stats. Oh, he's the greatest scorer ever, and longevity stats. If you bring up longevity stats, you're as dumb as people who bring it up 6 rings for Michael Jordan. Have a basketball conversation, skill for skill, performance for performance. Who's the better player? Skill for skill and performance for performance, Michael Jordan comes out on top. Michael Jordan didn't fail his team. Bron failed his team in the biggest of moments. That's a separator. Michael Jordan is just a better shooter. Like, things like that, you can go on and on as to why Michael Jordan was a better player than LeBron James. We don't even have to get into rings and all that. That's elementary conversation. All right? Let's be adults now and have real conversations about sports. Who's the better quarterback with your eyes when you're watching? When you're watching, context-wise, could that guy legitimately take that garbage team to the Super Bowl? Probably not. But we expect him to, right? Those are unfair expectations. So I get where Bron's coming from. Ring culture, killing sports, so is stats culture. I put them hand in hand as to why sports debate and sports conversation is just trash right now. You can't talk to anybody around about sports because they don't know the sports. They just know what the numbers tell them. Like, ChatGPT can do that. ChatGPT can just spit out numbers. But ChatGPT, I don't think, doesn't have eyes. Didn't watch the games. Doesn't understand the context of what happened. That's the difference in conversations. So I agree with Bron. All right, last thing before I get up out of here. The NBA is never going to do anything about this, all right? It's too much money being made off of gambling. I've preached on it. There's nothing else to say. All I'm going to say is this, all right? So Malik Beasley played for the Detroit Pistons last year, is under investigation for gambling, gambling on NBA games, blah, 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 prop bets, the same thing, right? Talked about it last year a number of times, or a couple of years ago, and then last year. Like, I'm tired of talking about gambling and players getting caught gambling. I'm tired of it. But Malik Beasley's situation is a little bit worse than just the gambling, all right? The NBA is going to continue to have gambling. They're going to continue to have gambling sponsors. The ads are all over the place, so on and so forth. That ain't going to stop, all right? Players just have to be smarter. But Malik Beasley's situation is a little bit wild because this cat's made a ton of money in the NBA, but he's having his wages garnished. And y'all got to read up on this. Like, he owes a bunch of people unpaid bills. And I know people who are new to this channel and those who are watching for a little bit, like, man, this guy, he talks about a whole bunch of other stuff and not just sports. Well, this is part of the reason why. Like, how does an athlete who's made $60+ million in his career, actually, I think he just signed a $60 million contract at the beginning of last year or whatever when he was playing with the Timberwolves. I don't have the details exactly. But he's made a ton of money in his career. Went to Florida State, my school. How is a guy who's made so much money is now getting his wages garnished by a doctor? He owes a barbershop $27,000. He owes, people who's lent him money. Like, he owes a dentist. Come on, Malik Beasley. And he was smashing Scottie Pippen's ex-wife. He was smashing Larsa. I take a serious tone sometimes on this podcast, and it's different from other podcasts because it baffles me how this stuff comes up. And so I spend time talking about mental health because something ain't right upstairs. Mental health and finances and getting your finances in order. And like, I spend a lot of time talking about these different things because if this could happen to an NBA player, it's for sure happening to the everyday cat. And I can't on my platform just talk about sports and hee ha ha while I know stuff like this is going down. So I got to do what I got to do to help you, my listeners, my viewers, all right, to be better with your mental health and your physical health and your finances. When we talk about finances, like those things, right? I can't in good conscience know that that kind of stuff is happening to everyday folks because it's happening to NBA players. So take away the gambling, right? He's a knucklehead for doing that. But the other stuff to me is important too. Like, how does that happen? But the NBA has their own issues. They're never going to change. I don't know who it's going to take to get in trouble for the NBA to be like, we got to do something. They're going to sweep this under the rug, and everything gets swept under the rug, and we just keep playing basketball. And dudes keep getting into trouble for gambling on themselves. If y'all want to read up on this, man, Yahoo has an article. I mean, it's all over the place. Like, this guy owes $650,000 to a sports management company, 27K Cairo cuts in the Milwaukee barbershop, $22,000 to some apartment building because he didn't pay rent. Are you kidding? What's up with Malik Beasley? Who's his money going to? $34,000 to a dentist in Minnesota. The man just made $6 million last year with the Pistons. How does this happen? Poor money management? Sounds like it. But gotta be something going on with this guy's headspace. Gotta be. Yeah. So I was planning on just talking about the Lakers and the offseason and stuff and talking about Bron and, making comments about ring culture and this and that. And then this Malik Beasley thing comes out. I'm like, man, I got to say something. All right. So if you wonder why this cat takes a serious tone sometimes, I just want to ha ha hee hee and giggle on his podcast. I want to laugh too. I want to talk about hoop too and football too. But sometimes I got to take a serious tone because I can't watch stuff like this happen and be like, knowing good and well that it's happening in real life and not touch on it to give you, my listener, an opportunity, to learn and to tell somebody else. Maybe somebody else is struggling and they can overcome. So if you're new to the podcast, that's why I take a different angle sometimes from regular sports podcasts. All right. So that's that. I'm gonna leave it there. Appreciate y'all hanging out again as always. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share with everybody you know. Leave a comment if you'd like. Let me know what's going on, how you feel, your thoughts. I'm going to get up out of here. I'm going to catch you guys next time. Mike, sports in the real shit. You guys be good. Peace.
I'm going straight to the top. Just put the stack on the clock. I am Ray Allen's a shot. I'm going straight to the top.